There we go. Wonderful. Hello, everyone. We have Jacqueline Woodson with us today. And we are the Story Sunbirds, a kid-lit collective of authors and illustrators whose mission is to cultivate a dynamic and inclusive community rooted in justice, anti-racism, and anti-colonialism. 1 year ago today, the children of Gaza held a press conference outside the El Shifa hospital to ask for an end to the war. Today, we're taking part in a Children's Day of Action, a multi-organizational, multi-day effort to commemorate that day. Our action is a day-long read aloud, and we have just a couple hours left in the day. And every presenter, author, illustrator has been presenting for 20 minutes. And we are also raising money for the Middle East Children's Alliance. And the donation will provide essential services that include shelter, food, clean water, medical and psychological aid and children's programming to Palestinian families. So that link should be in the link. And if you email us a receipt of your donation, you will be entered into a signed book giveaway by some of our presenting authors and illustrators. And you can see that in the chat as well. If you have any questions for Jacqueline, please put them in the Q&A, and we will have a moment to ask and answer them at the end. And so right now, I want to hand it over. Jacqueline, I'm a huge fan. I'm totally fangirling right now. I will let you take it away.
I am changing my name because it has my assistant's name in here and I don't know why that is. So thank you, Rhonda. I am so happy to be here. I am so happy to be supporting this mission. I think so many of us know that the work we do as writers for young people is we do because we love you so much. We love young people and we love all people. And having spent time in Palestine, Palestine lives in me too. And I am deeply committed to the work of ending this genocide and creating a safe space, not only for my Palestinian brothers and sisters and nieces and nephews, but for all of us. And we're doing that in the many ways that we know how to with the tools that we have. And one of the tools I have are my books. And I hope that they help us have an easier time walking through this world and that they help us move toward change and creating a greater good and a safer world. And with that, I wanted to read Each Kindness, written by me, illustrated by E.B. Lewis. I'm a little winded because I was out and it was 3:59 and I literally trekked home to get here because I didn't want to be late. I didn't want to miss this moment. I didn't want to miss having this opportunity to read and talk with y'all. That winter, snow fell on everything, turning the world a brilliant white. One morning, as we settled into our seats, the classroom door opened and the principal came in. She had a girl with her and said to us, "This is Maya." Maya looked down at the floor. I think I heard a whisper, "Hello." We all stared at her. Her coat was open and the clothes beneath it looked old and ragged. Her shoes were spring shoes, not meant for the snow. A strap on one of them had broken. Our teacher, Miss Albert, said, "Say good morning to our new student." But most of us were silent. The only empty seat was next to me, and that's where our teacher put Maya. And on that first day, Maya turned to me and smiled, but I didn't smile back. I moved my chair, myself, and my books a little farther away from her. When she looked my way, I turned to the window and stared out at the snow. And every day after that, when Maya came into the classroom, I looked away and didn't smile back. My best friends that year were Kendra and Sophie. At lunchtime, we walked around the schoolyard, our fingers laced together, whispering secrets into each other's ears. Sorry. One day, while we were near the slide, Maya came over to us. She held open her hand to show us the shiny jacks and tiny red balls she'd gotten for her birthday. It's a high bouncer, she said, but none of us wanted to play. So Maya played a game against herself. That afternoon, when we got back into the classroom, Maya whispered to me, I bet you can't guess who the new Jacks champion of the world is. Behind me, Andrew whispered, Chloe's got a new friend. Chloe's got a new friend. She's not my friend, I whispered back. The weeks passed. Every day we whispered about Maya, laughing at her clothes, her shoes, the strange food she'd brought for lunch. Some days Maya held out her hand to show us what she'd brought to school, a deck of cards, pickup sticks, a small tattered doll. Whenever she asked us to play, we said, no. The days grew warmer and warmer. The pond thawed. Grass began growing where snow had once been. One day, Maya came to school wearing a pretty dress and fancy shoes, but the shoes and the dress looked like they belonged to another girl before Maya. I have a new name for her, my friend Kendra said. Never knew. Everything she has came from a secondhand store. We all laughed. Maya stood by the fence. She was holding a jump rope, but did not come over to ask us if we wanted to play. After a while, she folded it double, rolled the ends around each hand, and started jumping. She jumped around the whole schoolyard without stopping. She didn't look up once, just jumped, jumped, jumped. The next day, Maya's seat was empty. In class that morning, we were talking about kindness. Miss Albert had brought a big bowl into the class and filled it with water. We all gathered around her desk and watched her drop a small stone into it. Tiny waves rippled out, away from the stone. This is what kindness does, Miss Albert said. Each little thing we do goes out like a ripple into the world. Then Miss Albert let us drop the stone in as we told her what kind things we had done. Joseph had held the door for his grandmother. Kendra helped change her baby brother's diaper. Even mean old Andrew had done something. I carried teacher's books up the stairs, he said, and Miss Albert said it was true. I stood there holding Miss Albert's rock in my hand, silent. Even the small things count, Miss Albert said gently, but I couldn't think of anything and passed the stone on. Maya didn't come to school the next day or the day after that. Each morning I walked to school slowly, hoping this would be the day Maya returned and she'd look at me and smile. I promised myself this would be the day I smiled back. Each kindness, Miss Albert had said, makes the whole world a little bit better. But Maya's seat remained empty. And one day, Miss Alpert announced to the class that Maya wouldn't be coming back. Her family had to move away, Miss Alpert said. Then she told us to take out our notebooks, that it was time for spelling. That afternoon, I walked home alone. When I reached the pond, my throat filled with all the things I wish I would have said to Maya, each kindness I had never shown. I threw small stones into it over and over, watching the way the water rippled out and away, out and away. Like each kindness done and not done, like every girl somewhere holding a small gift out to someone and that someone turning away from it. I watched the water ripple as the sun set through the maples, and the chance of a kindness with Maya became more and more forever gone. Thank you. So that was Each Kindness. And as I said, it was written by me. It was illustrated by E.B. Lewis, and these are actually watercolors. And what we're doing here today is about kindness. It's about a deep belief in the way we think people have a right to be treated, about the way in which we believe deeply as a people that folks have a right to live and to live freely and to live in the land that is their land. When I was in Palestine, one thing I got to do was meet so many beautiful young people. And I remember I posted these pictures on social media. I met this one kid who didn't believe my hair was much bigger than it. He didn't believe that that was my hair. And so he pulled it. And I was like, ouch. And then I pulled his back. And he was so surprised that here I am, this grown person is actually pulling his hair back. And I'm like, you just pulled my hair. And I think, it was this moment of us both understanding that, you know, the way we treat people so deeply matters. I mean, I knew that. I'm sure he knew that to some extent, but it was this funny moment of both of us coming to this understanding and coming to this deep. I'm so sorry. My dogs are losing their mind, and I don't know why. Hold on a second. I'm gonna yell. It's because another dog is barking in the backyard. Let's see over there. But it was just a beautiful moment, and it was a moment that cemented my love for him and for my time and for the place that is Palestine. So I don't know what more to say. I'm here because I love you guys, and I believe deeply in the work that we were put here to do, and that work is about kindness, and that's why I chose to read this book.
Thank you, Jacqueline. That was really so powerful. And I love that story about the little Palestinian boy.
So cute.
It's adorable. I want to tell everyone watching, if you want to leave any questions, go ahead and place it in the Q&A box, and we can definitely answer any questions we have. Someone wrote such a perfect book. Thank you. I'm sobbing.
Thank you for listening.
And Jacqueline, can you tell us, do you have any thoughts on sort of the connections between Black liberation and Palestinian liberation? And just a small little topic for us today.
Oh man, it was so interesting because I was talking to my friend Ta-Nehisi, who is also a writer, who was also recently in Palestine and he wrote a book called The Message, and he's been doing a lot of work speaking out on the injustices and equating it with the era leading up to the civil rights movement and beyond the civil rights movement, where under the Jim Crow laws here in the States, Black and brown people had very few rights as a in relation to white folks. And just I remember him talking about walking down a road in the West Bank, and it was a road that his Palestinian friend was not allowed to walk down. And that idea of the way during Jim Crow, Black folks were made to step off the sidewalk if a white person was walking down the sidewalk. You know, the schools were separate and unequal. Entering back doors, and which were the checkpoints of the South, and all of these ways in which there is in which there are so many similarities to what's going on inside this occupation, and of course this genocide. And even looking at one thing I looked at recently, because I was writing about it, was a map of all the places in the US where there had been massacres against Black folks. I mean, the one that we know most about is Tulsa, and where it was a Black middle class, upper middle class community, and white folks bombed it. And so, you know, it was a loss of economic wealth. It was a loss of family, it was a loss of homes, and just watching the way that what is happening in Palestine is also mirroring that, like the devastation of, you know, mosques and homes and stores and schools and libraries and places that are at once home, but also places where we can work to get more free. So just looking at that map and thinking about the ways in which history constantly feels like it's on a loop. And then thinking about the people who were the allies, the people who stood up and said, this is wrong, who lost their own lives in the fight, and or got hurt badly, but and the ones who live to tell the story. I think that's what's really important. Looking at what's happening now here in the US with the erasure of books that talk about the history of this country from a non-white perspective, and the way those books are getting banned is about the erasure of history. Like, let's make believe this never happened. Let's make believe these people never existed. And therefore we can tell a different narrative. And I think it's so important for us here in the US to bear witness to the atrocities, not only here, but globally, because it is a narrative that is a part of all of us. It is a single story almost, in that way, that if we don't tell the story, who will? And if we don't see others as fully human, who will? So yeah, there are so many similarities, sadly.
Absolutely. So we started the Sunbirds partially because we felt like, as writers and illustrators, we didn't have the space to really talk about Palestine and to grieve about Palestine and what was happening, and to um, just discuss what was happening. Um, do you have any advice to writers or illustrators, or even maybe teachers or
Mm-hmm.
parents who are having a
Mm-hmm.
hard time feeling erased? People are feeling erased. They're feeling like they're not
Mm-hmm.
allowed to speak about
Yeah.
what's happening in Palestine and other countries as well, but specifically Palestine. It's really a
Yeah.
situation where the people don't want to hear this story. Do you have
Mm-hmm.
advice? I don't know.
You know, I think that there are a lot of people who don't want to hear about the hard stuff. I get asked a lot, like, how do you write about something so hard like race? And I'm like, race is a Tuesday around our table, right? This is when you have, in our families, we're always talking about this. We're always talking about the work that needs to be done. And I think that's one way of talking about it. You know, we can talk about the atrocities and the tragedies, and we can also talk about, like, what are we going to do? Like, what is the work that we can do? And if you're scared to speak out of the work about it, then what can you do that is not speaking out? And also, even bigger, what makes you afraid? Like, what do we have to lose? Like, for me as a writer, as a storyteller, as a truth teller, um, I don't want to be on that side of history that didn't speak out, that didn't speak up. And I don't want to have to lie when I'm 78 and say, oh, yeah, I was at the marches, I was speaking out, I was wearing my watermelon pin, like, all of that stuff, like, because the soul knows, and God knows, I'm sorry, and our ancestors know. So I do think we are here to do the work that our ancestors expect of us. And sometimes it's hard, sometimes it's scary, sometimes it's painful, sometimes we lose friends, sometimes we lose family members. And then at the same time, we know, the economics of it. We don't want to lose our jobs, right? Because we need to feed our families, we need to pay our rent and mortgages. So what is the thing that you can do to keep yourself economically safe? And by safe, I don't mean like you have to be super wealthy, right? Like just to keep yourself safe and your family sound and do the work. And what is your, my friend Toshi last night was talking about technologies, and the technologies inside our own bodies, what we have that we can do with what we have to create change. And so, people know personally what their specific technology is, what the thing is they can bring. I can bring story, I can bring my voice, I can bring the platform that I have. And so for each person, that has to be decided what it is the thing that they can bring.
Right. Love that. Do you have any advice for maybe young Palestinian kids, or maybe young who are really especially having in the US
Mhm.
who are having a hard time right
Mhm.
now?
I think it's so important to gather, with like-minded people. I think it's so important to grieve with like-minded people. I think it's so important to share your stories, to keep writing. Like, I do think we are going to find a way to the other side of this. I don't know what that other side looks like now, but in this moment, I think it's so important to chronicle it, chronicle what you're feeling, what you're thinking, what your hopes are, what your dreams are, for your futures, for the future of Palestine, for the future of your families and friends, and just keep a record. These records are so important, not only to the now, but the future and the history. I think about Octavia Butler writing Parable of the Sower, which was a book that really talked about what was happening in this country and what was going to happen in this country. And it's wild because so much of what she was writing in the past is coming to fruition now. And I think that we can do the work of writing ourselves and talking ourselves and marching ourselves, and speaking out into a better place. And we're not alone. I think that's one thing I can tell young people. You are so not alone. Like, we don't have a lot as old people, as grown-ups, but what we have, we are willing to give to you. And to support you with. But yeah, gather. If it's over lunch with two other people who feel the way you do, stay away from the negative people who are trying to erase your history or saying your history doesn't exist, or that you don't have a right to the land that is yours. Like, really protect yourself, and the people are out there who love you and who are in this struggle with you. So find them, gather with them, not on social media so much, but like in real life. Sit around the table with those people, sit at school with those people, sit on the grass with those people, and just know that you're not alone.
Absolutely. I love that. And I think that's sort of what we've done with the Sunbirds. We ended up
Mhm,
gathering, and our starting premise was we're not negotiating on Palestine.
mhm, mhm,
This is a non-negotiable. Palestinian rights matter. To,
mhm.
um, tell us a little bit about what you're working on, and then we'll let you
Oh
go.
man. Okay. Working on staying sane on this seventh day of November in the United States of America. um, um, working on trying to figure out what the work ahead is. Um, and art matters. So working on another adult book, working on another picture book, working on um, uh, um, an animated version of The Day You Begin for PBS. That's been fun. And just trying to stay creative. Creativity is a salvation for me. So really trying to continue that narrative.
Actually, one last question. I lied.
Uh-huh.
How do you stay creative in really difficult times? Does that come
Mhm.
naturally to you, or
It's work. It's definitely work. I mean, it definitely is about compartmentalizing and shutting off the world. Um, I will spend time when I don't read the paper, and that helps. I just got to get my water just a second.
yeah, you did explain.
So, and it just takes focus. It takes a different kind of focus to say, this is the work at hand, and if I just stay in this world of what is hard, I'm going to be even more messed up because the work also is healing for me.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much for being with us, Jacqueline.
Then
You're
I
okay.
muted my cough. Yeah, I'm okay. I have really bad allergies
Um,
today.
yeah, thank you for sharing your work with us. And I think we know how to find you. We'll put your website and information in the chat,
Yes.
or any information that you'd like us to put. And I want to tell everyone to please donate to the Middle Eastern Children's Alliance. And you can find us on Instagram, and we have our newsletter that comes out as well. But we're so grateful that you're here. You were here with us today, Jacqueline. It means so much to us, and to stand in solidarity with the kids in Palestine. So thank you.
Always, always, always. Thank you. And I will retweet and repost anything to help and of course donate. So thank you.
And join our sunbirds.
I will. I will.
Yay. Thank
Take
you.